All right, we're live. We got a lot going on here today. You can see to my left, probably your right on the screen, is my good friend John from LHT. And he was bringing up my B16A2, my swapped engine. So the engine's here before the car. But we wanted to talk shop, and I wanted to show him a little bit the operation and talk about the Shopify and all that.
Yeah.
And so we got a couple of things going on. One, we'll manage your comments here today. I probably should have done the Instagram stuff too. But we're going to get the LHT story. Want to talk about Hondas and car modifications and stuff like that. We're about the same age, I think.
I just turned 50.
Oh shoot! Then you're 10 years older than me, so you have an even better story than I do.
Yeah.
So but we grew up in the in the 90s, 80s and 90s of the
era.
sort of heyday of tuner cars.
Yeah.
And John's kind of experienced it all the way through to today. And the other thing that's going on is there's a 12,000 mile Civic Si that many of you shared with me. That the bid ends in 8 minutes and 42 seconds. We might get sidetracked here if I try to buy that thing.
It could happen. I'm seeing you getting excited over this one.
I don't know. It makes me nervous about spending money.
Yeah.
But I would buy it so that way we could do a dual giveaway, which I talked about before when I tried to buy the 9,000 mile one. Doing a dual giveaway would mean we'd have a Civic giveaway, but we'd give away two cars.
Yeah.
A stock one.
And then the modified.
And then the awesome one.
That would be cool. It'd be good to get video driving experience too.
Yeah.
If you had them both at the same time.
Back to back, we could race them and stuff like that.
Yeah, there you go. Do some racing, do some driving perspective.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
So I want you to take us through the LHT story, and then I'll sidetrack you here in about 7.5 minutes if I buy this thing.
Yeah.
So how do you get into cars? When does this all start?
Honestly, it started. I was born in England. I lived in England until 93 when I left.
Mm-hmm.
I was into motorcycles from as early as I can remember. My brother and father both had motorcycles. So as soon as I could ride a bicycle, I wanted to ride a motorcycle. And that was my thing. I never got into cars until I was 17, when a good friend of mine was into cars like I was into motorcycles. And he was into rally racing, which in England is a lot of big sport over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hang out with him, and then we would be taking our cars down like the country roads at night with all the spotlights on, driving as fast as we can, constantly trying to make it faster, trying to make my car faster than him trying to make it. So it kind of started then, but I had no clue what I was doing.
So this would have been what, in the 70s, mid to late 70s?
No, this would be 1987.
Okay, yeah. So if you're 10
So
years old, you were born in 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'd have been mid to late 80s. That's right.
Yeah. So 87. Some of the cars that I wanted, I couldn't afford. So of course, you modify what you have. You tend to get a normal car and modify it, and potentially ruin it. But you think you're doing a good job, especially when you don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
And as time progressed, it's kind of like as you make more money, as you get smarter, you start to get more expensive, better stuff. I dreamed to move to the United States because it seemed everything was better. There was better everything.
Mm-hmm.
First off, the weather.
Yeah.
I hate drive. I was obsessed keeping my car clean with a piece of crap car.
Yeah, right.
I'm clean every day. It rained or it snowed, and I'm washing the car 4 times a week. I'm the only person in the street in the snow washing my car. So that was a deciding factor too. But when I moved to the United States, my first quest was to find a CRX because I couldn't afford a CRX in England. The way the insurance works in England, it's based on it being a sports car, based on a theft car, based on a crash car. The insurance rates, you'd pay more for a CRX than you would for a Ferrari because the CRX guy is going to do something stupid.
Chances are, the per capita crash rate and damage rate is much higher on a little hot hatch.
Exactly. That's what they called them, a hot hatch. And I pursued a CRX when I got to the United States. I bought a first-generation CRX, which was a 1.5. Then I fixed it up and sold it and bought the SI model, which was the 1.6. But the second generation was the one I was really really shooting for. That was like the dream car.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that they never came with a B16, which is essentially the motor we just took out of your Civic.
Mm-hmm.
They all came with a lower horsepower model. So I decided to buy a CRX and then import an engine from a friend of mine that still lived in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
He basically went to the junkyard and said, I have it. Is this what you want? Sent me a picture. The old school way before email. He sends me a picture and you open it in the mail and you go, that's it. That's the engine. I need it. He shipped me an engine. At that time, I was working at a used car lot for a friend. Because when I came to the United States, I just did it the old school way. Packed 2 bags, got on a plane and said, I'm here. I came with a passport. That was it. 2 bags. And I was working under the table because I didn't have a green card.
Yeah.
I just said, I'll make it happen. I have a dream. I'm going to chase it. So I was working for him selling cars. And because at the time I had a pretty thick English accent, people would buy cars off me. I don't know why that is.
Thought you were very sophisticated.
He must know more than me. He has an English accent.
Yeah.
So I was swapping my CRX after hours at the car dealership. So I would be selling cars during the day with oily fingernails. And by the time I'd got that one done, this was in 94, I had a customer come in and ask about the CRX and, hey, what are you doing to the CRX? And I showed him it and he goes, this is unbelievable. I've never seen anybody put one of these motors in. That's the Japanese motor.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, that's the English motor. He goes, well, it's the same in Japan. So long story, he brings me his CRX. I do his car. And after a few months, word got around, I was swapping engines at night and working on selling cars during the day. And it kind of escalated from there. It kind of got to a point where that's what I like to do. I don't like to sell cars, which selling cars wasn't selling cars. It was talking somebody into a payment that they couldn't afford.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, it didn't feel good about it.
Mm.
You'd get someone coming in saying, listen, I got $500. I want that 1982 BMW. I can afford $300 a month. We'd send it to every finance company in town. And whoever took them, the person would sign their name and pay 84 months on a $500 car that they put $500 down. And I hated it. I didn't like it. I didn't feel good.
No bids. We got 2 minutes. Time out on your story here. Should I buy this thing?
For what is it right now?
36.5.
Put in.
2 minutes left.
Put in.
Well, I'll be 36,750. I go $250 over.
That's right. It restarts every 2 minutes, correct? It's not like
so
eBay.
if I make this bid, I'm gonna wait till like 30 seconds left, and I'll put in 36,750.
Okay, because it goes for another 2 minutes after your bid.
I just think the absurdity of me buying this thing,
but
would be worth the publicity, wouldn't it?
Didn't you just put that in suspension and stereo?
Oh yeah, even more. Yeah.
So that's a whole car.
Yeah. Well, there's a minute and a half left. No one's bid anything. Let's see what happens if this takes off. I'm going to wait till the very end. I'm going to do it at 30 seconds, and we'll see if I get this crap. I don't want to buy this car. I wanted it to go like 45 grand, so I would be out.
You wanted somebody else to talk you out of it.
One minute left.
If I had the disposable income, I'd buy it, and I'm a bit of a collector.
1 minute. No bidders. Oh, crap. I'm going to end up getting this car.
If you do get it for 36.7,
yeah,
that's a good price compared to what they're selling for now.
Yeah, the one with 3,000 less miles went for 50. Well, I was partly responsible for that, but went for $50K.
Is there any other sold between that one and this one?
No, I don't think so.
I haven't seen any come up. I've been kind of watching.
All right, 30 seconds. Recently. Place bid. I accept.
You are signed in.
Oh, right? The service fee is only $1,800. Place bid.
$1,800.
Authorization. Oh shoot! I think I just lost it. Credit card. Go save. That was my old credit card number. Where is it? I lost the car, didn't I?
No.
I'll go back. Oh, here it is. Oh my gosh! Get out of here.
It didn't just sell, did it?
Oh,
Did it sell for 36.5?
I should have bid it a minute. It sold for 36.5. I would have got the
You
car.
would have had that car.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We should have checked earlier. That's good. I don't want to buy it anyway.
Well, that's just a reason.
Dang it. I can't believe that.
Look how nice that is, too.
I should have checked my credit card. I'm such an idiot. It was, I had to get a new card number, a few months ago. And I knew it was all set up, so I got to place the bid, and it declined it. And man.
Well, maybe you didn't need it.
Yeah.
Because you'd end up modifying that one, too.
Yep.
You've got 3 sets of wheels that you could put
What
on
a
it.
freaking disaster. Shoot. Oh, well. Well, back to your story.
Back to my story. So Matt loses the bid from not being ready. So, yeah, I'm selling cars that I don't want to do. I'm swapping CRXs at night. I'm building my own mount kits. There was a few mount kits available at the time. Taking some of you guys back in history, there was a Speed Garage that made a mount kit that just didn't fit. There was a company called Place Racing. Their kit didn't fit. Long story, I would put the motor in, get it where I wanted it, and build my own mounts. And I was a big believer of using the Honda mount, so it didn't shake and vibrate the car. And long story, I got people lined up wanting to do these. I used to go to the street races at night and meet people and race people. Occasionally go to the the drag strip and meet people there. And kind of word got around, and I started, well, can you do this? And can you work on, this? Can you put a supercharger on it? And it kind of grew from there. It was something I liked and I enjoyed. It's sometimes not the most profitable thing out there, but it's probably one of the most fulfilling because you're creating, especially what we do now. It's more creative.
Where were you building this stuff? Like where did you? First of all, where were you were you in Tampa?
I was in St. Petersburg. I was working at a car dealership off Tyrone Boulevard, and I was using their back stall to do this. And that company was somebody within the company was embezzling money. Between the two of them, that company closed down. Myself and one of the other people that worked there moved to another location, and we shared a shop. He was doing trucks, I was doing Hondas. We shared a building. And as my business grew and his grew, we eventually separated. I got my own shop, and I'm pretty much in the same area as I was when I started.
But how did you know how to, because you're building the mounts, you were welding stuff, right?
Yeah. So. In England, I went to college to be a welder and engineer because it was something I used to do as a kid. So I went to college to, get certifications, which turns out in England, everybody is a welder. So when you go to college and you go to a company to say, hey, I'm a certified welder, apparently everybody goes to school to be a certified welder. So there is no welding jobs. It's kind of like the IT business. Everybody is an IT, expert here. So I got basically my engineering skills, my mechanical skills, and welding skills from back then. So I already kind of knew what I wanted to do. It was a case of how do I make it happen? And of course, being a little different, being in the United States, trying to find the people that supply this and where do you get this from? It was kind of a learning curve too. And of course, being illegal, that didn't help. Starting the business off, trying to run it like a business, even though I'm not supposed to run it like a business. And obviously then once I got married, I got my green card and reopened the business again, which was, like it is right now.
So you're in Tampa, you're building some mounts, you're selling them on what forums?
No, back then I didn't sell mounts. I did just the work. I
Okay.
didn't sell parts. I didn't really sell anything online. Back then there wasn't an online. It was forums. If you could, Honda Tech and those kind of things. I used to advertise on Honda Tech, put the pictures of the builds, but most of it was actually doing the work to the cars. People would bring me a car. I would order an engine. I'd put it in. I'd tune it. Would build exhausts.
But were you ever doing any just regular maintenance work, or was this all tuner stuff?
This was all tuner stuff. It was, once word got out with the CRXs, I have some old pictures on the website, I think. I don't know. We just talked about the website. I don't know how many pictures are on there, but I had 10 B-Series motors lined up They would come in. There was 2 of us at the time. One would come in, would prep it, new timing belt, new water pump, new belts, hoses, and go down the list. And the next car came in, got the next motor. And I was swapping CRX. I mean, the motors I did in the CRXs at last count, we did 108 B series in just CRXs. And that was the more complicated swap to do because it required custom mounts.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that ended up the CRX cars kind of dried up. You just don't really see them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And more Integra started showing up more when the S2000 came on released.
Late 90s, yeah.
Yeah, 99. I got my hands on an S2000. We did some work with that. We learned a little bit about it, did some tuning with it, learned, back then there wasn't the custom fuel management you had today. Everything was the tricks. Remember the old VAFC, the silver display? You could change the
VTEC
fuel
controller, yeah.
Yeah, that's about all we had. We would tune them with those, would build exhausts. I built a cooling plate that was a carbon fiber plate. It would bolt between the engine and the airbox. I built a few innovative parts like that just that I built based on testing. And we used to sell those through somebody else. A friend of mine used to sell them on Honda Tech for me. But kind of rolled with whatever was hot and whatever I enjoyed. I mean, I've always been a Honda fan, so I've stuck 2 Hondas. I know them obviously inside and out. S2000 is probably our biggest platform right now. We have S2000s coming from all over the country, and some of the nicest, cleanest, lowest mile S2000s, kind of like what you see on Bringer Trailer. We've seen a 10,000 mile S2000 came for a full build, full turbo, full fuel management system. I've got one in the shop right now that's got 16,000 miles on it. It's amazing how many low mileage cars are still out there.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Civic. We just talked about it.
Yeah,
There's so many.
I can't believe I missed that for my freaking credit. I knew something was. I'm like, maybe I better check this. No, I'm logged in. Everything's good.
Yeah.
And denied. And if I would have done it at 1 minute, I would have gotten it done.
You've had time to update it. I did that with an S2000.
Dang.
It's probably a good job because I kind of got excited and I started bidding on it. And then I waited and it logged me out. And I went to bid and I wasn't logged in. And then by the time I got bid, same thing.
So, only Hondas?
I would say 80% of our work is Hondas just because I like them. I own a Corvette. I like the Corvette, and I talk about this a lot. I'm not a Corvette guy. I'm not really an anything guy. If I was, it'd been mainly Hondas. Most of the Hondas don't have what I want. I want an S2000 that's 10% bigger, 200% more power, bigger brakes, bigger suspension, that kind of feel. And I found it in a Corvette. The C6 and C7 Corvette to me feels kind of like an S2000. It's kind of raw. It's got that same kind of feel, very tight cockpit. But I don't like them enough to work on them. I've worked on a few. They're kind of annoying. I know you had one and you
It lasted
did
a
some
few
work.
months, yeah.
You probably didn't like it.
Oh, I hated it so much.
I don't enjoy working on them.
Yeah.
A Honda to me is precisionally assembled. Everything fits perfect. If it has a bolt, the washer's built onto it. It's either a 10, 12, 14, 17. It's very well organized. You work on an American car. I don't know about you work on German cars more than I do, but they'll put 2 bolts next to each other that do the same thing. One's an 11 and the other one's a 13.
And one's 4 feet long and the other's 2 feet long.
Yeah.
And it only needs to be an inch long.
Yeah.
Drives me nuts.
A Honda tends to give you the exact size bolt. When the bolt goes in, it's the exact length. The washer's the exact size. But yeah, you're right. An American car, the washer falls off. It might have a nut on the other side that falls off and disappears on the floor. So I tend to work on what I like. I'm kind of lucky in that aspect. Nobody tells me you're working on that today.
So one of the things I admire so much about your operation is that every single shop that I've ever been worked with or been a part of has like 37 cars in the parking lot.
Yeah.
right? And it's, you know exactly what they're doing. They're working on the car for the guy who yells the loudest or demands the most.
Or they're using that guy's money to build that car.
Right.
And then when that car is paid for, we can go work on that one, or the guy that yells the loudest.
So how do you manage that? Did you always do that, where you take one car and work on the car until it's done, and then the next car comes in?
I started that way basically because I started in a one-car size garage. It was in the back of a shop. So I had to. And I'm very, I won't say OCD because people think that's crazy. I'm very anal about cars sitting outside. I don't like cars sitting outside. Like when you drop that Civic off, it came right inside.
Right.
The last thing I want is a massive rainstorm, and then you come to pick your car up and you go, "What happened?" And I go, "Well, it got rained on, then it dried."
Yeah.
So I was always about, I'm only working on one car that I can fit in the shop. And it's kind of like having 10 things on your desk. Something's going to get overlooked. You're going to miss that, and this didn't get done because you didn't see it. Having one car, there's less chance of a mistake. There's less chance of something getting missed. You're not going to overlook a step because you have to bounce off over here and work on this one.
But what about the money? What about what happens if something doesn't show up?
Typically the way we do things, and I do this from an organizational standpoint, is, I mean, not everybody is the same. Some people run into money issues. Some people just say, well, things changed, I can't do it. So let's say we bring your car in, and I said, Matt, this is a $10,000 build. And I give you a list. You say, yes, that's exactly what I want. You email me back. You sign it to say, that's what I want. I will typically take a deposit for everything that I have to buy. And anything that I have to buy, we order it then. We put it in a box. It's got your name on it. 2 months down the road, you say, you know what? This happened, that happened. There's all your parts. And it's one of those things that it's tough to manage that because somebody walks away upset. But if you do it this way, I'm not out anything. You're not out anything. There's all your parts. Or we can send them back, and the manufacturers typically charge,
A restocking fee.
Because they don't want to go through the hassle. So they make the restocking fee, very high. But that way, we have most of our bills covered in your parts. I do tend to keep a lot of OEM parts that we need on a day-to-day basis. We'll usually keep extra, obviously, material to build, piping and exhaust and intercoolers. We keep injectors. We keep Hondatas. We don't keep a ton of inventory.
But you also don't have piles of old crap that you're hoarding either.
No, I don't like that, and it's kind of like running a business. We're still a small business. I run it like a small business. I'm into every part of the business. I know everything that's going on. I don't want to have to deal peddling used parts. It's kind of like, I don't mean to sound mean, but the type of people that are trying to buy a cheap part, I don't want to deal with, because you usually have to meet them in the middle of nowhere. Then they haven't got the money, or they don't show up. Or you ship it to them, and then they try and dispute it because they're trying to get it for free. And then people get mad at me because I throw it in the dumpster. You know, some of the stuff that I take off, I throw it away just because it's resolved. Or you take all the parts home with you, which I prefer. I save everything. I save rotors. I save your brake pad, your spark plugs. You get everything to take home. That way I don't have any more crap in my shop that I do already.
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess the devil's advocate to that would be, well, then you'd have extra parts laying around. If you needed them, then you got them. But then I always live by this philosophy. Maybe this sounds similar to you. Is that, like, if you keep a bunch of crap and you need it, you wouldn't know where it was.
No, the more stuff you've got, the less chance you've got of.
And you end up buying 2 more of them, and then you lose it. That second one, it's like you have all this stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of keeping it lean and organized.
Well, plus, I mean, I don't call it as a mechanic shop, but as a car shop, a service shop, a fabrication, it's easy to have the place look like crap. It's I keep my shop pretty clean for what we do. I realize it more when I go to another car shop. I look at their shop, and the floor is oily. There's parts with dust on it, so for that, we're pretty clean, but I'm always looking around. What's in that box? Why is it still here? What's that pile of junk? Let's get that out.
I do that every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of yelling at everybody.
If not, it builds up.
So here's a question for you, John. How long has George worked for you, and how did you two meet?
Actually, I think he's been working for me for about 8 years, and he walked into the shop one day, and apparently he walked into the shop a few years earlier, and I didn't give him the time of day because I was busy or I was running in 10 different directions. But he was basically interested in getting a job first off, and I didn't take the time to talk to him to say, hey, can I help you? And I think he just left. Well, then he came in after the recession. The recession was pretty bad for us. So it was just me.
In 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
We were really slow. I had a friend of mine working for me at the time, Paul. My son was born in 2010, and he left me in 2010. So it was just me in the shop, still in a recession. And I think about 2012, George came walking in one day. I was up to my eyeballs in work, still doing the same one car at a time. But of course, it takes longer to do the job. So now the backlog is piling up. He just basically walked in and said, hey, I'm interested in working here. I said, well, what can you do? He goes, I've swapped engines. I've done this. I've done that. I said, I'll tell you what, start tomorrow. Let's see what you can do. Show me what you can do, and we'll see see if we can work together. And he basically had the idea of the way I like to do things. I'm a little bit critical than most. I don't like putting tools in the engine bay. That just, I cringe when I see that. The person take it off with a ratchet, then to put the ratchet on the valve cover, all the stack, all the bolts up on, and I go, that's, you're scratching it.
Yeah.
So there was a few little things that I said, this is the way I want it doing. I don't want you putting new parts on the ground. You have to put a blanket down. Just a few kind of tweaks. But he already had the idea and as I say it, the drive, the passion, the want to do better. And we've kind of learned off each other over the years. I've taught him stuff. He's taught me stuff. We're like best friends.
So how do you manage, in the beginning, how did you manage, because you guys do a lot of like late nights or weekend, or did he just have that, just do what needs to be done?
It really does. I pay him salary. I don't like that hourly thing where you don't know if you're going to have a good week or a bad week, because nobody wants that. Your bills are fixed. You want to make sure you know how much is coming in. So I said, I'll pay you salary. It's always going to be the same. He's not the type to take days off all the time. But I said, if you need time off, just let me know.
Yeah.
If you need a week off, long as you give me the heads up, we'll make it happen. But if one night we work till 10 o'clock, I'll either give him extra money for it. I'll say, hey, if you need a couple of days off, if everybody gives 110%, you get 150% back.
Yeah.
So if I need a day off, it's I don't take days off, but he can run it. But I treat him like a friend. We go to SEMA every year. I pay, all expenses paid to SEMA. It's not just a vacation. It's kind of like, it's motivation.
Yeah. It's like a rejuvenating, you get to see other,
It's meeting people. It's like you and I just had the conversation. It's like seeing your facility. It motivates me, It motivates me to say, well, I need to do this, and I'd like to do that. And when we talked about some of our business ideas, you want to learn off somebody that's doing better than you. But at SEMA, obviously, there's a lot of builds and a lot of flashy stuff that you're not interested in, but you take something back from it. And he comes back with motivation. He sees something. Oh, we see products. We've bought crap at SEMA that we didn't know existed.
Right.
I bought a $6,500 fan the last time I was there. But it's the best fan I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We bought tools. We bought the dyno there one day.
Yeah.
I was kind of like you with that Civic.
Yeah.
I walked up to the guy at DynoJet and I said, I'm ready to make a deal. What can you do? I bought a dyno on the spot. So
You're getting a lot of use out of that dyno, though.
I love the dyno, but and a lot of people think I'm crazy. I don't rent the dyno out.
Yeah, you don't want
Because
to be messing with it.
I don't want someone messing it up, and I don't want them to drop my cables and drip oil all over my straps.
Yeah.
You know, and break it, and nobody tells you. You know, all for $100.
What does a dyno cost?
Our dyno jet, we bought the dyno jet, and it was the latest one with the newest software, the hardware, the stack. We bought the hydraulic ramps, so we can put anything on it. Plus, it's not in the ground. So if I need to leave, I'm not digging a hole and filling it in. All said and done, I think it was about 38 grand.
Well, that's not too bad. I thought they were like 200.
There is an add-on to ours, which turns into foil drive. That'd be about another 40 grand. No, another 30 grand. And then there is a eddy current brake, which is so you can hold a car at a certain RPM or a certain speed. Doesn't matter what input you give it. It's kind of an electric brake. That's about another 25 grand, but I just don't need it.
Yeah.
It's a great tool that only we use.
Well, you see, pretty much every dyno I've ever gone to has been all like on its last leg, like because they just don't take care of it, you know. And yours is like brand new.
Yeah, I've rented dynos forever since the day I started. I know all the dyno guys in town, and it's the same story. I don't know what it is about a dyno, but the first thing you need to do is park an old car on it when you're not using it, and the car you can't move it, or a boat. First thing you do is you get an old boat and you park it on the dyno and you say, okay.
And then you get there and it takes them 45 minutes to...
It happens everywhere.
Get the grunt off of the car that has to be done right this minute.
Yeah.
Right? And because they've been putting it off for 6 months and the person's coming to pick it up.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there for 2 hours waiting for them to get the stupid boat off the dyno.
It's happened every single place, and I don't know what it is. And then when you get there and you get the boat off, you go, where's the straps?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they're in my truck. You know... I've already drove 30 minutes to get here. I'm supposed to be tuning a car. You're telling me, you know, I
right, and then the thing, the air fuel thing doesn't frickin' work.
It's broken. The cords are bad. It'd be kind of like you loaning out your best favorite buffer, and then every time you need it, it doesn't work, or the cable's broken, or they've dropped it.
We had that one time where I lent my polisher to some dude, and they turned into this whole deal where he brought it back to me broken.
Yeah.
And said it didn't work. I'm like, what are you talking about? It didn't work.
It's the old philosophy. And somebody told me this. And of course, you can't always buy your own tools, but I was told if you need something, you need it, so go buy it.
Yeah.
If I borrow your part and I break it, I've got to buy you a new part.
Yeah.
Which I should have just bought the part and kept it for myself. I learned that with the spring compressor just earlier this year. I borrowed somebody's spring compressor and it broke after I used it.
Yeah.
But I took responsibility because nobody else would.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I was the last person to use it. It must be me. I'll buy you a new one.
Yeah.
So I should have just bought myself a spring compressor.
So a couple of people have been asking about the Integra build and the journey of the Integra. So it's red now, right?
Yes.
So take me through what were you thinking there? Why did you do that? What was the car like when you first got it? All the whole story.
Okay, so that car I've owned 3 times now. I bought the car off a friend of mine that just painted it. He's a painter. He had just painted it that gray color. It was a Lexus color. And we built a turbo kit for it. He drove it for a while. Then he put the JDM front end on it. And then he told me, hey, I'm going to sell this car. Do you know anybody who wants it?
Was it a 2000 GSR?
Yeah, it's a 2001 GSR.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought it off him. It had the turbo kit on it, the Japanese front end. I changed the wheels, changed the brakes, changed the suspension, took it to the Nopi Nationals. Everybody was going crazy over this car. It was a good-looking car. Mm-hmm. Drove it back, and the problem I've ran into, and I'm still doing this today, is I enjoy the build. Once the car's finished and it's sitting in the parking lot looking all pretty, I go, well, I'm really missing the build. I enjoy creating. So I'd finished the car at that point. Sold it to a friend of mine. He took the car and an engine that used to be in my yellow Integra Type R. I'd put it in one of his other cars.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I want those engines swapping around, and I'll give you the silver car and plus cash for the Integra. So I sell the car, I get a Civic, I drive it, and I go, I don't want this thing, so I sold it. He calls me a couple of years later, hey, I'm going to sell the Integra, do you want it? Meanwhile, it repainted the roof, it put some maintenance into it, so I bought it back. And same thing. Why did I buy this car back? I don't know what else to do. Why did I buy it? I just like it.
Is this a low mileage car? I mean,
no, it's a 100,000-mile car, but it's all there. It's got interior. The air conditioning works. It's nice. The body is straight as can be. But I don't know why I bought it. So I sell it again. And long story, I put at this point when I sell it again, I take the turbo engine out, the big engine that I built for my yellow car out, built a whole Japanese motor, JDM motor similar to what we put in the Civic, new headlights, new HIDs, did a whole bunch of stuff, and then sold it. That guy ended up starting a family. He said, I need to sell the Integra. I said, well, let me try and sell it for you. I tried to sell it. I had a couple of people want to buy it, and they kept flaking. And I had one guy that was 100% buying it, and I give him the seller, the okay, I've got it sold, no problem. He goes and buys another car before we get the money. So the deal falls through, and I feel bad. I go, you know what, I'll buy the damn thing.
All these buying and sellings, how much is this car? Like, is it 10 grand or is it 5 grand? Or
at the time, it was between $12,000 and $15,000, which some people are still going to go, that's crazy. GSRs are worth 15 grand, just reasonable shape these days.
Yeah.
So I buy it back, and I say, well, what do I do? Do I keep it? Do I sell it again? And all this time, I've always wanted a Milano Red Type R. I had a yellow Type R, which I bought. I liked it, but I was never a big fan of the yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that Milano Red, and I had a vision for this car. So we decided to strip it down, paint it, rebuild the engine, decided to put a turbo kit on it, but it was all about factory OEM style feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to exhaust out the hood, and like we said earlier, I don't want to run it on race gas or all the crap that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be normal. Plus, I don't want it so overpowered you can't drive it. I want it to be a normal car that you could just drive to the store. So we built the engine, built the turbo kit, new suspension, new bushings, new brakes. We decided to build a lot of titanium parts because we're getting more into the titanium. So we kind of use that as an experiment and to promote what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So full titanium exhaust, titanium intercooler pipes. And like any build, it just keeps snowballing. It's like if you're going to build this, well, you may as well do that. And if you're going to put a new seal here, you may as well put one at the other side. And I put stupid amounts of money in that car, which it's easy to do. But I think I have over 10 grand in the paint. The headlights were brand new Japanese headlights that I bought back in 2004 and kept them in the box. And now they're worth about 2 grand. I put those in it. I put brand new taillights. Everything that we could do to make it perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful car, but now it's done. I'm like, well, what do I do with it? I've got a $40,000 Integra that it's too pretty to drive, or I'm afraid some kid is going to rip it off, and
Yeah. So what motor is in it now?
It's got the original motor, a B18C.
Uh-huh.
It's a built motor. We built it with the ability to make 700 horsepower, but it's making about 350 on a small, nice turbo kit, air conditioning. It's just a normal car.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't drive like a race car. It drives like a normal car with a ton of power.
Uh-huh.
It's fun.
So how did you find time to do that? Because you're booked solid.
Yeah. Well, I took that car on, and it was kind of like a restoration because we stripped everything out of it. So you end up with a big pile of crap in the shop that's like a mountain. I mean, we called it Mount Integra because we kept piling stuff on boxes and then the carpet. And then, so that's the problem. It's like if you book a job and it takes 5 days and you get it done in 4, well, let's spend a day on the Integra.
Okay.
And then we'll come in on Saturday. And then 2 nights a week, let's work till 10 and work on the Integra.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough to manage time.
Yeah.
And it's always, I never put my car before a customer's car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to do. It's easy to get carried away with your own car and call a customer and say, hey, I'm going to postpone you a week. I'm going to work on my car. But it's not the way to do it. The customer pays for your hobbies. You can't pay them yourself. So I'd always put a customer's car first and then just work on my Integra took 9 months to build.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for one, we put a lot of time into it, but just working nights, weekends, odd days, it just took forever.
So you've been doing this for a long time. Is the passion still there for it?
It is. It really is.
Because you're one of the very, very few people, the very fortunate few that from the very beginning, you just followed your passion.
Yeah.
And figured out how to, now we call it monetize. I don't even think that word existed back in the day. But you'd figured out how to make a living doing it.
Well, in the beginning, it was passion-based, but it was more of a need. It was something I knew. And it was kind of, I fell into it as a business. I mean, I was very good at selling cars. And I don't like selling cars. I mean, I could share my passion. I could sell you your Porsche if I like it. I'm very passionate. I can tell you everything I like about it, but I don't like selling people things they can't afford. You know, the whole stringing you on for payments. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I kind of fell into this, but it was something I loved to do. I've said this on my channel. If I hit the Powerball tomorrow, the only difference in my life would be I would unplug the phone and the computer and my cars would just get more expensive. I'd still be tinkering, modifying. You know, I'd probably go out and do these things for free. You know, start a YouTube channel and do a while you were out kind of build. Take somebody's car that they can't afford and build it just for the fun of doing it. I still love it. The creativity is the fun part.
Can you do it forever?
I'm going to do it until I can't do it anymore because I don't know anything else that I want to do. I talked to you. We desperately need to get an online store going, not just for the revenue part of it, but for the fact of people call us all the time. I want to buy a T-shirt. I want to buy the master cylinder brace. I want to buy a clutch kit. There's so many things that we can offer, but we don't have the ability to process parts. You know, if you walk in my shop and say, I want a T-shirt, I end up just giving you the thing because I don't know. I'm like, I go in there, Esther, can you put out an invoice? We've got a guy who wants to buy a T-shirt. She's in the middle of doing something. She has to open up an invoice, you know, for a $20 shirt. And it's like the work it takes to sell the shirt. I give the things away. If you've been to my shop, you'll see that. You say, hey, how much for a shirt? And I just go, just take it. We've got a stack of them on the shelf. But the time it takes to process someone's order and get a label and go through the UPS, our UPS account isn't very good. That would take some of the pressure off me having the online store generate revenue and hire someone to do that. But I'm still going to do what I do. I like it. I'm still doing essentially the same thing I did 20 years ago. I'm still hot rodding my own car.
So, you know, it's funny. I spent most of my life, most of my adult life, almost all of it, teaching people how to retire, right? And I've made this comment, which has probably resonated with some younger people, younger guys who watch what I'm doing and kind of listen to what I say. And I say, you know, it would be nice to have the money to not need to do it. Yeah. But I have no intention of not doing what I'm doing. Like, why would I want to quit? If you figure out what you love, and you can figure out how to pay your bills and make you have a comfortable lifestyle and maybe afford you some of the things you might like. Yeah. Why in the world would you stop?
That's it. You have to do something every day. I mean, I try not to be this inspirational guy, but I talk to people that I feel like I've been 20 years ago. They're working at a job. They dislike it. They're working at a factory. They're working on who knows what, Amazon. it's not their dream job. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You're miserable. You make the money just to buy yourself gifts to kind of, reassure yourself that you should do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a, and I think that, that's why, you're sitting here with me, or, I talked about my friend Derek Kinney from Sound in Motion, who's similar story to you, where he's been a craftsman doing what he loves for 20 plus, or even 30 years, building car stereos. I've kind of stumbled into this, where I'm curating products, and then I have many friends, like my friend Sean, who owns PSI down in Orlando. He's got all these old BMWs, loves BMWs, and so he built a brand around that, that passion. And there's so few people that are so fortunate to find that path. And then the key is, I think, what we were talking about earlier, is that the key is to work toward eliminating annoyances.
That's it. Yeah.
That make the money part of the passion work. Because without the money is a result of the passionate enterprise or the chase.
Yeah.
And the money is a result of it, but making it so that you don't have to do the things that you don't really like doing.
That's true. I mean, that's essentially what we're all striving to do. Working it's a must. You have to do it. But you've heard it. If you can do something you love, you're never going to work a day, which essentially that's what I'm doing, but I'm trying to eliminate the stuff that I don't like. Mm-hmm. I don't like doing the business end of it. I've got Esther in the office. She's working, part-time while the kids are in school. Basically, she's at the shop. I enjoy video editing. Like we talked about, I enjoy doing YouTube videos. I don't know what it is about it. I kind of started, and you gave me some kind of encouragement in the beginning. When you first pick up a camera and look at a camera, you kind of go, what am I doing? But then when you get some feedback from people and people learn from it, you're sharing your ideas. It's enjoyable.
It's like a drug, yeah.
It's
addictive, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I find myself rather entertaining when I'm editing myself. I'm like, that was pretty clever.
Yeah.
How did I come up with that?
Yeah.
I just know that if I'm watching something back of myself that I'm editing and I'm not bored, then that means that other people probably aren't going to be bored too.
Because it's easy to, if you're into it, if you're passionate, and I stay off the phones for this very reason, because I will talk I will talk to somebody as long as I have a bit of a, kind of a shared passion.
Yeah.
I will talk about your Porsche or your BMW or whatever, because it's the same passion. It's like talking shop. If you're really into it, you can talk about it forever. You don't get bored. I've met people at SEMA. I've stood there and talked to for 4 hours.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy a couple of years ago that it didn't even speak English. We're using our phone translator to talk. He comes up and waves me and George over it. And we're like, he must know us from YouTube. We talked via translator on our phones for 10 minutes. He's doing the same thing I'm doing, just in a different country.
So here's a good question that Justin asked. He says, John, he asked this of Brian from Hassport on his podcast, but are there any companies you've worked with, like you've vended or purchased from the beginning, and maybe for the beginning through the middle and now? Like, are there any products that you still use from the old days today?
Honda is probably the longest used product, and I only sell and use what I like. I'm not one of these. I'm a terrible businessman, by the way, which is probably why I'm still in a small shop and I'm driving a Corvette and I'm not driving a Lamborghini or something. But I do it because I like it. I don't do it to maximize profits. But I still like Honda. It's the best. The best is we put Honda in your Civic. Mm-hmm. It's the best, in my opinion, there is. A lot of products over the years as better products have come out and I've actually got to experience them, I've changed brands. I've gone through every clutch company. I was an ACT dealer when ACT very first started. That's like a lot of a clutch a lot of the S2000 guys go for. And I was looking for a Honda feeling clutch, but would hold power. And every clutch had this compromise I hated. Exhaust. I'm constantly tried everybody's exhaust. I started building my own because I wanted a certain sound and a certain look. I wanted it to be high quality. But most of them we've evolved. I mean, we deal with Hasport, we deal with Honda. Most of what we do now, we build ourselves. We deal with a few Skunk 2 parts. We deal with Garrett. That's still our big favorite turbo is the Garrett turbo. But as things get better, I'm not stuck in the past. Try not to stay. I stay loyal with my vendors because they tend to work with you if you need it.
As long as it makes sense, it's funny. I've made this transition from the twin bush lift to the Nussbaum lift.
Okay.
And I've been very transparent. Part of the reason I did that is they kind of screwed up the import fees, and they just made it so it's not feasible.
Yeah.
For me to purchase. So it doesn't make it a bad lift. But it made me go out and search around. It made me go out and think. It made me go out and chase. My intention was always to do twin bush as my base lift and Nussbaum as my high end lift.
Yeah.
Well, I was in no rush to do that because the twin bush was fine.
Yeah.
And then when it came to the point where it wiped out, I sold 100+ lifts, and then they sent me a duties and import tax invoice that wiped out all the profits. So I ended up paying a few $1,000
wow.
to sell these lifts that we never agreed upon. So I which was fine. It didn't make me want to quit. But then I said, well, if that's going to be the case, then we need to sell the lifts for more.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do that. And so I'm like, well, I guess I can't do this.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to go. And then, of course, the comments were from people saying, well, no, twin bush is no good because Nussbaum.
Well,
so sometimes there's a business transition.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a better product.
That's
where
it.
Something better comes out.
Yeah. You got to pursue. If there is a better product out there, I'm not going to go too far into it, but we've sold Kraftwerks superchargers for a long time, like the Kraftwerks kit we put on your car. And we've had really good luck with them. But as time has changed, some of the things that were promised to us never came. And the supercharger fluid to change is extremely expensive. The belt is expensive, and it gets to a point where the cars that we've done 3-4 years ago come back, and you're either repairing them or maintaining them is more money than a different kit in the beginning. So we're starting to change a little bit over and offer a few different supercharger options and turbo options just for the long-term reliability and cost of it.
So I think we're very similar in this mindset of you're trying to do the right thing, from your family's perspective, from their family, your customer's family's perspective, from your vendor's perspective and their family. You're attempting to choose the right path and choose the right products.
You're trying to balance everything. Of course, you need to take money home to keep the house working.
Right.
Obviously, but I've always had the idea of not trying to make the sale today. You need to make the sale for next year. So you've got to look long term. I never shake customers down for extra. I don't bring them in for a free oil change and then sell them $2,000 worth of parts. I send more people away by saying, don't spend the money. Don't spend this kind of money on this car. Some people get offended, but long term, they appreciate your honesty. I've sold so many people on the idea of take the money you was going to give to me, clean this car up, sell it, and put the money and get a better platform, and then let's try again in 2 years. And I've got 20 years worth of customers that are still coming back to me. I want to treat the customer like it's myself. I don't want to give somebody something they don't want, and comes back to,
Here's a question about something you and I were talking about when you first came that has asking about a Milwaukee Impact for lug nuts.
Yeah.
right? So they have the new, compact and the new mid torque,
Okay.
which I haven't really tested out yet. But you use at the shop every day the high torque, the standard high torque Milwaukee, like a generation ago,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so you guys are using that to break loose nuts that are problematic, and then lug nuts and stuff like that.
The 1/2 inch one will break loose almost anything. That, like the larger one that you
Yep.
showed me, the 1/2 inch, we'll use it to break loose lug nuts, not a lock. You can't use it for the Honda locks. You'll break the lock. You got to use a torque wrench or a breaker bar for that.
Mm-hmm.
But anywhere we can fit that in, we'll
Mm-hmm.
use it to take stuff off.
You got to get the right angle little M12 impacts. They're so good.
It's not an impact, it's a ratchet. One of our followers sent us it.
Yeah, well, you need to get the impact version of it.
Yeah.
It's because it's like 250 foot-pounds. It'll
Yeah.
break. Oh man, it's so good. It's got a kind of a big head on it,
Yeah.
but it's the stubbies that are straight. You can't get in
Yeah.
most of the places, but you can get it in a lot of spots. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's real good. I'll show
Yeah.
you it one before you
Yeah,
leave. Real
absolutely. You just showed me some of the later generation stuff, which is my newest impact is 3 years old,
good. Yeah.
but I use it every single day. We have an electric drill, a 2-speed drill that we use to tap, drill, polish stuff with. If we can't find the buffer, you put a wire wheel in and use it to clean. And it wore the bushes out.
Yeah.
And I bought new brushes for it, rebuilt it, and it truly is probably one of the best tool lines.
I think
used.
I'm about to have the product specialist, the company, the people that are responsible for the new compact and mid. But I think the mid torque is probably going to replace for a lot of people the high torque version for breaking lugs and stuff like that. Because now it's considerably more output than the previous gen.
Yeah.
It's more compact and it's not as good because that high torque gets kind of heavy.
It's heavy, yeah.
7 or 8 pounds.
I think I have a 5 amp battery on it, or an 8 amp, and it's like a dumbbell. You hold that thing up, and by the time you take all the lug nuts off, you're carrying that thing around. That smaller one would probably break. You said it breaks lug nuts loose.
Yeah.
Without a problem.
So what's next for LHT? What are you focused on? What's the next thing?
Honestly, the online store is something that I procrastinated. I've got to get an online store, and I want to get someone to run it. I'm going to be building another car next year. I'm thinking about selling the Integra. I don't want to use your channel to make sales pitches.
I know, sell it up.
Now it's done.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I don't really favor one car over another, but the S2000, we just bought an 08 S2000, and I want to build it with a specific package so I can use it as a demo car.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I want to be able to drive it. I want Esther to be able to drive it. George can drive it. It's kind of like a fun company car. So something has to go to keep rolling.
Yeah.
I don't have the revenue to just keep building cars. So the Integra is going to have to go away. I just finished building my Corvette. I'm going to road race that a little bit because I enjoy road racing. But to be honest, people think you're crazy. It's kind of too much power for its platform. I took it to the Dragon, just squirting it through the mountains. It's like it's like trying to drive a missile around the back roads. And it's great to have that much power, but it breaks the tires loose all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's one of the things I love about Porsche so much is the engine sitting right over the rear axle there.
Yeah.
Traction is never an issue in those cars.
Traction in the Corvette until you get to 80, it's
Yeah.
And it sounds like, oh, you're old, you need 1,000 horsepower. You can't use it.
Yeah.
If it's too much power and you can't put it down, especially road racing, you don't need that much power. So I don't know. Maybe after I drive your Porsche, I might think different. I just asked.
Change. Have you ever driven a GT4 or a GT3?
I have a friend that let me drive his GT3, and he has a GT3 RS.
Uh-huh.
But I tend to drive other people's cars. I tend to drive very, very slow.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you can go out and rip my car. You can't do any worse than I would.
But I like the compactness. I like, first off, the amount of room that's in your car. I just sat in that GT4 and I think I could have
It's
put
surprising how much space
yeah,
there is.
it really is. It's bigger than my Corvette on the inside.
Oh, yeah. A Corvette, you freaking can't see anything.
It's small.
My head touches the roof.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought they were made for big, fat Americans.
yeah.
That was my biggest rub.
Yeah, my head is this much off the roof.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a big car at all. It's big on the outside.
So Monday morning, you walk into the shop. What car is going to be there? What are you building this week?
Let's see. We have a 2015 Civic Si coming in for a clutch and a supercharger. Partway through the week, that's going to go till Thursday. I've got a full schedule on my phone. Every day has a car on it. The following week, we have another S2000 with one of our high torque turbo kits, which I just absolutely love.
Yeah.
It's a turbo kit that gives a ton of power down low. No noise, no issues, quiet exhaust, no supercharger whine. Just transforms the car. It's just a blast. We're going to put that kit on our car. I like it so much, on our red car. But we're booked all the way until April at this point. But same philosophy, one car at a time. Your car comes in, it's the only car that gets worked on. Gets 100% attention.
Mm-hmm. And so you owned the previous gen NSX, or the new NSX, the previous 2018 or whatever,
Yes.
17, 18.
2019 was the one I bought.
Why don't you still have that?
So I've bought 2 cars now at SEMA, just dreaming. Probably a car. It was a, how do I put this? That is a great car, and some people are going to get upset. That's a great car for 80 grand. For 80 grand, that's a hell of a car.
Uh-huh.
Once you put it at 170, it's suddenly not that good.
Uh-huh.
The tech was absolutely terrible. My Colorado has better tech on the inside than that. It was a infotainment center, whatever you call it. The air conditioning ran through it, the radio ran through it, and you're always trying to find it in the menu. You don't just turn the air conditioner on, you got to find it in the menu. And it was slow. It was delayed. It didn't have a volume knob. It was a slide, which was just god-awful. The biggest problem is I tuned the car. I'd modified it. I made it pretty public. I'd modified it. I even changed the seatbelts to orange seatbelts. There's YouTube videos of me running at the quarter mile and the road course. And I found out that the engine is 90 grand.
Yeah.
So it changes the way you feel about it. You know?
You don't want to shell out 100 G's to replace the long block.
Yeah. So I couldn't afford the car. And I was pretty public about it. It's kind of like staying, at the best restaurant in town. You can only go there for the weekend, and then you got to go back to your house. You can't sustain that kind of lifestyle. So I was kind of afraid of it, and I did want to modify it further.
Right.
But I couldn't afford the potential bill. That would have been a life changer for me.
Yeah, and being public with it, you can't, you're not going to lie about it. You're going to do that anyway.
Yeah. I'd have to take the seatbelts out and send my wife down there and pretend it broke when she was driving it to the store. And yeah, and plus, they're not going to go for it. So
I would argue that you are sitting on a gold mine of knowledge and value, and so you're like drilling for oil, and you only drilled like an inch into the ground, and we just need you to drill like another 12 inches, and the freaking oil is going to come rushing out.
Yeah, that car, it did a lot for us. Sometimes it's about recognition. The car got us in a little bit deeper with Science of Speed. I've dealt with Science of Speed over the last 20 years, but I've never had enough money to go in there and say, I want this and I want this kind of discount. They're a small company too, so they don't have very large margins, but I was always on the very lowest discount. It's funny how once you get a little bit famous, how people start volunteering to help you.
Yeah.
So they started to work with us a bit better. We got in with Taycan, which is the titanium company we use. I used that car to promote their titanium. They got a lot of calls after that video went up. The seatbelt guys, we rewrapped the seatbelts in orange because it came black. And they started to get a lot of calls. So now when I call those people, they know who I am and they're willing to work with us and, give us better discounts. But that car kind of got me there. It had its place. It was a terrific car. It was just the expensive place on the beach I couldn't afford to stay. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah. The car really interests me. I don't know why. It's like I don't really want a McLaren. I've talked about, I've never really wanted a Ferrari.
Yeah.
I've always just, wanted Porsches. Porsches,
Yeah.
like BMWs, Porsches, and then I'm kind of moonlighting in my old Honda days, but my S2000 was a big life shock, when
when you bought that Civic, when you called me, what was one of the first things I said?
Well, the first thing I said to you, because I knew what you were going to say, is, look, I'm not buying this to keep.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're going to hate that car.
This isn't your apartment when you was 18. It was cool when you was 18. Now when you go back to the apartment, it's as big as this room, and it smells funny. It's not as good as it used to be.
It's not how you remembered it.
No.
Right.
And I've done this a few times, and I mean, it's like, I'm really interested in the Porsche. I really am. I'm kind of looking at that. It's a lot less money than the NSX, but I like to road course.
Yeah.
I'm not that good. I'm okay, but I have a blast, and that's what I enjoy. That's a car that I can take to the road course and enjoy, and I can use it to promote some of the things we do. But I'm still kind of dancing around getting one. I don't know enough about them. I'm familiar with what I have. Sometimes it's tough to, But when you watch the guys that race, they're racing Porsches.
Yeah,
you don't see
most of them. Yeah, it's because they freaking work.
You don't see many broken down.
It's funny, like if you go to the Porsche, like the Experience Center, all those cars that are ragged out, 5-6 hours a day.
Yeah.
All they do differently is they change the brake fluid like once a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll change the differential, like the gear oil.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it. Just run it.
Pads, rotors, fluid, diff, oil change, and they're bulletproof.
Yeah. That's something I might start talking more about it after I drive your GT4, but most of my friends have Porsches. 5 of my friends have Porsches. We go to the road course, and my Corvette tends to be more powerful than most of those guys. I can kill them down the straight, but then I'm trying to, fight. I'm going beyond my skill level with this car.
Yeah, like a Z06 or a ZR1 is gonna, it's gonna beat even most, GT3 RS and stuff like that. But
it's harder to drive.
Right. But you're gonna have, so if you have two novice drivers that are take the same person and put them that doesn't have a lot of skill.
Yeah.
Put them in a 700 horsepower ZR1. Let them go around Sebring.
Yeah.
And then put them in a GT3.
Yeah.
Let them go around Sebring. My wager is it's probably going to end up being 2, 3, 4 seconds faster.
I think you're right, and it's just because you can use the power. You can use it, and it's not coming on as scary.
Right.
It's more controlled. So
I think it's going to change your life a little bit. You can go drive a GT4 around, and it's in many ways the 981 GT4, so the previous gen, I think is still a better sound. It's certainly a better sounding car. And there isn't that much improvement on the newest one versus that one. I was hard pressed to choose which one.
Now, you've played with a lot of exhaust on your Porsche. And for the non-Porsche guys, they sound funny until you hit about 3,000 RPMs. They've kind of got this, I'm not going to try and do it over the mic, but it's got this kind of weird sound. And then it kind of cleans up, and then it sounds like a motorcycle. Yeah. And it sounds terrific.
Well, the GT3, you have to remember, there's no packing in the clutches, and so you can hear all that grinding. It sounds like it's broken.
Yeah.
And the other thing you're hearing is that they all have valves.
Okay.
And so the valves open at around 3,700 RPMs.
Yeah.
And so what you need to do is you need to find that balance between So if you do something like higher flowing headers or remove the cats, or you do remove the side mufflers, then the valve transition isn't as annoying.
Okay.
Now in the GT4, you'll see I've disconnected the valves. They're removed from the equation.
Okay.
GT3s, they drone too much when you take the valves off.
Yeah.
The GT4 doesn't, so what I do is just disconnect the valves so they're open all the time.
Okay.
Because the GT4 gearing is a lot taller. And so you're in second gear at like 90 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And so if you're waiting for that 3,700 RPM transition, 90% of the time you're driving with the valves closed, which sounds like crap.
Yeah. Yeah, the sound kind of... and again, it's sometimes you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, Hondas, to some people, they don't like them.
But there's no low-end grunt kind of sound that you get from a big V8. The flat six is something that kind of grows on you. And if you do it right, with putting the right aftermarket exhaust on, I think it's absolute must to have an exhaust on any car, but that's just me.
It's part of the driving experience.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want it so annoying that I can't hear myself think, but it's part of the fun of driving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I drive 90% of the time with my radio off.
Yeah.
Just driving and enjoying the car.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that might be something that might be a transition, because I just built my C6, and like I say, I've kind of overpowered it. It's a blast, but it's a bit too fast.
Yeah.
Especially for the track.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming up. The Civic, I'm excited to get. I'm more excited to watch the video than I am to drive the darn car and take pictures of it when it gets here.
I drove it, and it's kind of like once you get used to more power, nothing is really that exciting.
Right.
But it's fun to drive. It's not. Yeah. I mean, the B16 is miserable. I
was having fun with that, even though it was so slow.
You saw the dyno. It made. What did it make? 100 horsepower?
It was 128 horsepower, 100 foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah. So that's not a whole lot in today's standards.
Yeah.
But it's it's fun now. It has the B18 in it. It actually get up and go, and it'll spin the tires.
And then the tame exhaust that I have on it with the with the test pipe and the new header.
Yeah.
Makes it sound way better.
The intake is louder than the exhaust.
Oh,
that's another thing. If you're a Honda VTEC fan, that VTEC changeover.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you a video of it on the dyno. You can hear it because we do a couple of runs on the street by the side of the shop, and the intake, when the VTEC opens, it just roars out that intake. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just it's nostalgic.
Well, I had Michael Good. He was doing a final once over and found some more little dents and dings since when he had it in his shop that he didn't find up here, and he aligned that hood is a little janky, the darn spoon hood. I'm so disappointed.
I am too, because I'm I've been into Honda so long. The spoon was always the upper product that you wanted, but you couldn't afford, so you got the Fiber Images hood, or you got but you'd put this spoon hood on this. Oh my god, this is it. And then when I saw your hood,
I'm like, what the heck? That hood was $2,000. It's okay, but it's not.
It's a race part, which you've got. That's another thing you got to remember. It's not a show quality part. It's a race part. It covers up the engine and it's light. We just want it to be pretty, and we want it to. I'd like it to fit better.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fitment too bad, but the underneath didn't look finished.
Yeah.
And you can see the light coming through.
You can literally see through it. The resin or whatever. Yeah.
It's very thin, but it's a functional piece.
Yeah. And the frustrating part is you can tell what they do is they build like 50 of them and they stack them together, and so all that rough part of the underside
is rubbing
the finish.
Yeah.
So it's all deep scratch. And so what we did is I had Billy Ryan did PPF on it.
PPF, okay.
So it'll hide most of it, but the edges are so bad that they couldn't edge roll it because it would just peel up. Right.
The edge, you would think it would be rolled and clear coated or resin or something, but it just stops.
It's kind of crunchy. Yeah.
It's like they shaved it with a grinder, and that's it. It's just
that's what you get.
Yeah, there you go. You're going to be racing it. It's going to get broken.
Yeah. I was actually surprised that the aluminum factory hood really isn't all that heavy. I think it was like 7 pounds or 8 pounds difference.
Was it really?
Yeah. I think the factory was 26 pounds and the other was like 13.
I didn't know that hood was aluminum. The Civic hood?
I think it is. Yeah. It's pretty light.
I know the S2000 is aluminum, but I don't know. The older Civics was never that heavy.
It was pretty. It was lighter than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he got it kind of dialed. Michael Good kind of set up the, got at least all the jams and all that stuff lined up, because that's what he does, and then did metal correction and all that.
He does some amazing work over there. I've seen some of his pictures that he does, and it almost looks photoshopped. He's done such a good job of some of those
my
cars.
darn fender roll that I screwed up. We did a relief cut on the driver's side, and then that sucked it in.
Yeah, fender rolling. I did it in the beginning, and it's the same problem that I run into different things. Somebody wants to pay $50 to have all the fenders rolled, and you say, well, to do it right, it's going to take me an hour and a half each corner. I can't do it for $50. So they find a guy.
I would have paid $2,000 if I know you could do it perfectly, but it's hard to do.
It's kind of you've got to start very, very lightly and see what it does. You got to kind of put a light. The way I used to do it is put a halogen light on the fender so you could see because the paint will move, with the fender, and you kind of creep up on it and move it little at a time. But it's very time consuming, and
it was my fault. And I said, I think it makes sense. We should do a little cut right in the top of the circle. Yeah. Well, the problem is that that made a relief, but then what happened is the fender would suck in toward that. Okay. Toward that cut. Yeah. I thought it would have released the sort of the radius, because you're rolling something like this, and you're rolling it up. Yeah. But lesson learned, don't ever do that.
Yeah. It's to a point where I don't do it anymore. I don't want to spend the time, and I don't want to give somebody the bad news that your paint cracked. Yeah. Because that's the other issue, is how old is the paint and how hard is it. So best to let him do it.
Yeah. All right, my friend, we got to get you in the GT4, and make sure to go check out LHT's YouTube channel.
I'm going to record it too, so I'm going to try and put on my poker face like I don't really like it. So if I do, you'll probably
there's no way you won't like it. It's such a great car. It's just seating position is great, and it's the right amount of power. The transmission's fine. It's nice. Yeah. Everything about the clutch feel is great. The traction, obviously, the way it rotates, being a mid-engine car, plenty of room. It's comfortable. The audio system is Bose, but it's decent.
Is your GT3 manual also?
No, it's PDK.
Which do you prefer if you didn't have to defend?
Well, it just depends on what you're doing. But if I'm driving around town, I want the manual. Yeah. But the PDK S, which is a little different than regular PDK, does no intrusion. So you wouldn't even want to ride in auto mode. It's terrible. You're in like 7th gear at like 30 miles an hour. It just bogs, and it's terrible. Yeah. And so you're in full control. So you pull the paddles and you engage as neutral. Yeah. So you just learn how to drive it like a manual, just without a clutch. And so the PDKS, I don't think you wouldn't feel like you're lacking a manual in your life if you have that. But if you have the choice, I think you choose the manual, unless you're on the track all the time.
Yeah, that's one thing I enjoyed on the NSX. The dual clutch was absolutely fantastic in that car. It was absolutely seamless. Even on automatic mode, it wouldn't miss a beat. I ran it at the quarter mile because I used the track to measure the modifications we did.
It's probably faster in auto than it was in manual.
It would run faster in auto every single time, and it would replicate the time so unbelievably
over
accurately.
And over and over.
It was unbelievable how quick it would do it back to back to back. Yeah. But sometimes you want to screw up and miss the gear and downshift for no reason. It's part of the fun of driving. Yep. So ideally, it'd be nice to have both, given the choice.
Well, you'll see. The auto rev match is really cool. Your Corvettes have had that too, which really works well. I'm not very good at heel towing. I can't do it at all.
I don't, and I put a video up on my Corvette. The older Corvettes don't come with rev match, so I bought a box that rev matches it. And if you want to see all the professional race car drivers come out the woodwork and tell you that you don't know how to drive, that's the video that did it.
I think it's something about us Brits. We just don't have that foot to brain.
Well, my foot is big.
I can't. I just can't do it. It just doesn't work. The car's all herky jerky, and I know how to do it.
The principle of it, but when I tried to do it at the firm, and I tried to do it twice, and I almost went into
Into
the
the
damn
wall,
wall
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's kind
You're
of
like kind of letting off. It just doesn't.
yeah. Maybe if you're trained and it's kind of like when you drive. I don't think about which hand is doing which. I just drive because I do it. So maybe if you get used to it.
I don't know. I've tried a lot.
I went down that straight. There's a back straight at the firm. They used to rotate it the other way. So there was a long straight going into a hairpin. And on a V8 with a ton of horsepower, when you downshift, there was so much torque from the engine, it would lock up the back wheels. So I would have to downshift way early and then, screw up the whole corner. So I tried to heel toe into this. And it's like you suddenly panic because you're going into the corner fast and you blip the throttle and you're not pressing the brake hard enough because you're using the wrong part of your foot. And then when I did hit it, I locked the brakes up. It could have been bad.
And that the people that it comes natural to, they're like, "You idiot! Why can't you do it?" I'm like, "I just can't."
Why don't you just heel toe it?
It just doesn't. I've been trying for my whole life.
Yeah. So it's just like there's a rev match.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
It's like use the rev match.
I can rev match just fine. I just can't heel toe.
Yeah.
And so, but it's cool. You get all the in control, and it does a really awesome rev match for you. It's great.
Yeah, and it makes it fun, which people sometimes they'll lose the idea of what it's about. It's not always about track times and quarter mile times. It's about actually enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
Enjoying the car. As I say in the videos, enjoy your car. That's what it's all about. If you don't enjoy it,
that was my realization with the S2000 build was I wasn't enjoying it. I'm like, I'm forcing myself to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed it so much when I was younger and smaller and skinnier and whatever. And now I gave it all the horsepower I want. I'm like, now it's too fast. It's no fun.
It's also the progression. You got to remember, I don't know what you had with your S2000 before it, but you probably came from a Civic or an Integra.
Yep.
So the S2000 is a step up.
Oh, yeah.
And it is a step up. But you've had, M3s since then?
M3s, Corvettes, GT3, all this stuff.
All of those cars,
the
S2000 is a great car, but all of those cars are better cars.
Yeah.
So it's not as good as what you remember.
Right.
But it's still a terrific car. It's just,
All right, people, make sure to go check out LHT's channel. He'll have a whole two-part series on the OG Civic build and all the detail. I'll also have a video on our channel of all the stuff that he put in. I don't even know what he did, so I saw what was on the invoice, but I don't even know what went into it.
Yeah.
So I'm just as excited to go and watch the video now.
Yeah, it's a fun build. It's a good car. It really is.
So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Go to LHT channel, subscribe, and follow him on Instagram as well. And buy his stuff. And if you have a Honda, I would highly suggest get on the May schedule, ship it down here, and write him a big check. It's worth it. Makes your life so much easier. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Good job. That was an hour and 30 minutes, and I messed up the Civic.
Yeah, that sucks, doesn't it?
It's good, though. I feel better about it. I would have been stressing. I bought it.
Then you'd have been like, well, now what am I going to do with that?